I'm Leo Warder for Kit Guru, and this case is NZXT MANTA. And I know what you're thinking, he's changed the lens on the camera, we've gone for a fisheye kind of thing, everything's curved and distorted. But no, not so. If you notice, I am my usual shape. The case does, however, have curved panels all over. And in fact, that brings me to my one major complaint with this case, which is that I cannot really show you the windowed panel very easily because it's convex, curved, huge, and reflects light like crazy. So I'm going to hold it up very briefly and there'll be like reflections galore. I'll put it down again. And there we go. Total fishbowl. NZXT says that that is the largest windowed panel on a Mini ITX case that you will ever see, or to date, and I have no doubt this is true, because indeed this is, despite its size, a Mini ITX case, and the window fills pretty much the entire panel. Therefore, as it's a large Mini ITX case, very large window, QED, very large Mini ITX window. And indeed, I'm quite happy to believe it is the largest that we have seen to date on any case anywhere. Anyway, the form. Most unusual, curvy panels galore. Essentially, if you look inside it, however, you might think, that's a little bit S340, isn't it? And I think you'd be right. The curved panels are not just a cosmetic exercise, however. If you look, you'll see we have mesh intakes there and also on this side and on the front panel. So those are exhausts on the top and intakes on the front. And if you then go like that, you can see, look, a stealthy sort of intake, similar thing with the other panel, because these side panels kind of overlap the front a little bit. No optical drive bay, you will note. On the top, headset jacks, 2 USB 3. And airflow nicely managed in a very stealthy way. But there's another trick to these panels. If I just pull off this rear panel, 2 thumb screws which are captive, you'll see this great big recess in the panel. And what that means is the cable management, there's loads of extra space outside of the framework of the case inside the panels. It's a curious thing, it works well. On the other hand, what it means is, if I turn like so, you can see that this hard drive, 3.5-inch drive, actually protrudes from the framework of the casing. So were I to lay the case down, as if I was doing some maintenance or build work or whatever, it would actually be resting on that hard drive, which I think we can agree is not a good thing, something to be avoided. So this sort of, here's the framework and here's the overall outsider size? Capacity? I'm not sure what the word would be. Envelope, let's go with envelope, of the case. Those curved panels add significantly to the overall volume, but the footprint of the case is pretty small. So before I pull off the other panels, let's just show you the, because I've got the thing running, the lighting. There's a rudimentary lighting kit. So the NZXT logo there, a white LED on the rear, and then this sort of little line stripe in the top panel, which doubles up as a power and hard drive activity LED. Thing is, however, those lights are white and white only. At the rear, we have, where is it? There. That little button there is to toggle the lighting, so you can toggle it on and off. But really, the difference it makes is not very much. Now it's still on, and that is now off. Really, as lighting kits go, fairly rudimentary. Let's just press and hold the power button to shut it down. Avoid electrocuting myself, forget my fingers in the fans. There we go. I'll pull out the power cord and I'll just pull off the other panels. So we have at the front a pull and away it comes. So again, all curvy, and there you can see the mesh intakes, very nice. Good solid panel, nice piece of work, I like that. It's very matte, very stealthy, and then you've got the NZXT logo there, just sort of lettered on. Behind that, full length intake filter, very nice. Simply unclipped for cleaning. Good bit of work. At the rear, power supply filter, just pulls out, nice and straightforward. And then the top panel, again, just pops off, and here we have, as I say, the exhaust vents, and that lays the case bare, and it's a nice solid piece of work. Now, Mini ITX cases, they can be a bit of a pain to build into because you're generally limited on the space. Clearly, when you have a large Mini ITX, on the other hand, it makes life a bit easier. For example, the fact that the I/O panel is screwed onto the framework, which means that you can lift the panels way easier. That sort of thing helps you a great deal, but it's the space that makes the difference. I've built into this a mini ITX system based on an Asus Z170. You look at the box, Z170i Pro gaming motherboard, thus has a Core i7-6700 Skylake processor on it and some Corsair DDR4. Reference GTX 980, and the power supply down here is a Seasonic 520 watt fanless. The SSD, I'll come to this in a moment, in here is an OCZ Vector 180. Now, there are a few things here. The liquid cooler I've gone for is actually a 120mm Alpen von Wasser. Originally, I'd intended to use an NZXT Kraken X61 280mm. And this case will, according to the spec, support either 120, 240, 140 or 280 at the front or the top. The radiator goes on the outside of the steel framework and the fan's on the inside, so that means it's pulling on the intake and pushing on the exhaust. And that should all work well enough. You can see there, in fact, the fan screw holes. So these are the two 120s that come with the case as standard. That's the 120 that comes as standard as well. These are the fans as supplied. So you can see the mounts there for the 120 or indeed 140 at the corners. And that's all fab and groovy. The Kraken, it didn't want to go in. It would have gone in just, I mean, really close for comfort at the front, which is the obvious location to put it, I thought. So ditch the two stock 120s, in with the rest, all looking good. It was the fine detail. So you've got the two hoses, and whether you have them at the bottom or the top, and I tried both, it would have just about gone, but it was absolutely tight. Too tight, I thought, for comfort. At the top, you always get this thing of if you put radiated fans on the inside and such, like they're immediately impinging on the top of the motherboard. The front was a much more convenient location, but try as I might, whether I went for the top or the front, I was not happy. So I thought, oh, well, let's make life easy. Single 120, Alpen von Wasser, job done. Obviously, I could have put that in other locations. I've just done that to keep the stock fans to show what they look like. So I wasn't completely happy with that, but had I persevered, it would have worked. Drive bays. NZXT makes a feature of this case that it does not have conventional drive bays, which gives you loads of space. Well, it's true. You haven't got the standard sort of caddy sliding on rail thing. This is very true. What you have are two 2¼ bays there, two 2.5 bays, one 3.5 there, one 3.5 there. I've installed hard drives just to show where they go exactly. There are actually a couple of sets of holes, so you can move this hard drive a little. But to gain access to the mounting holes, you first have to take out these two caddies, which isn't hard. So you undo the thumb screw, you slide it, you pull it out, and there you go. Exactly the same thing for the second one. You can see the OCZ Vector 180 SSD is upside down. You can see it by the label. And that's because these are handed. They go the one way only. It's the wrong way. Were they ambidextrous, you might have some say in the matter. You do not. There's another factor about those drive bays that's vexing, which is that to install these, well, drive bays, they're sort of drive mounts. So you have to take them off, put the SSD on 4 screws and put it back in. You have to hook them in behind this cable management bar, which is a feature I like, and I've seen it on various other NZXT cases. You have to hook it in behind there and then slide it forward. What that means is that the thickness of the drive on this plate matters. An SSD will do it no problem at all. If you have one of those super duper chunky hard drives that you get in some laptops, there's I think up to 15mm. I'm not sure whether that will work. They have like an extra platter in them. But the real kick you, this is silly type of problem that's arisen is you cannot use NZXT's Hue Plus lighting controller, which is about yay thick. It's too thick to mount on this drive plate and fit in this NZXT case, which is just silly. Now, we are told NZXT is moving these mounts this away to the front of the case slightly, and that will give enough clearance. You don't have to hook in behind the cable management bar, and you can completely do away with this. But that just strikes me as silly. The idea to put any storage drive within reason on this plate, but you cannot put NZXT's own device in there. I don't know what they're thinking. So you take out the 2 2¼ that gives you access to the mounts for that hard drive bay or mount, and that's all fine. As I say, on the other hand, if you lay the PC down, you'll be laying it on that drive, so obviously care required. This drive down the bottom of this mount down here, to gain access to that, 4 screws again, you go through in the bottom. 2 of them are straightforward, 2 of them you kind of have to put the screwdriver through access holes in this sort of mount foot type of thing. And that is really tight. Now I found it easy to simply remove the mount. It's 4 screws in the way it comes. It gives you all the access that you want. But a bit tight. So what I'm saying is mounting the drives is very doable, but it's a bit more fiddly than I would like for a case that prides itself on being large. Cable management is pretty good. Now I've not sort of worked particularly hard to tidy everything away with that cavernous side panel. There's no particular need. It looks like it's all hanging out a bit there. Put the panel on it, it just vanishes from sight, which is good. That cable management plate there obviously hides a certain amount of cabling, and that's fine. You will note there are no cable grommets whatsoever in this case. Plenty of management holes, no grommets. Surprised by that. There are many anchor points for tie downs. That's good, I like that. You can see at the top of the board plenty of access to put your cables through, and similarly in the power supply cover you can put cables up to feed the graphics card, which is good. It's not especially obvious, but these are vents in the power supply cover to let air rise through the system. All works very well. The details of it aren't perfect, so that 2.5 drive bay mounting thing is a little bit vexing. The lighting system is about as basic as you're going to get. The fact that the 280 radiators could go in, but they're really tight, it just seems unnecessary. After all, NZXT sells a 280mm liquid cooler. Common sense says it should just go in like so. It's tragically not quite the case. However, the form, fit and function of the panels I think is absolutely fab and groovy. Airflow is good, cooling is good. Mini ITX can suffer on the cooling front. This one works well. You will obviously get slightly better cooling with a full tower or mid tower, but as a small case goes, this works really well. Having said that, it's not really that small. It's a smallish case. I mean, I keep looking at it thinking it's micro ATX, but no, it's mini ITX. The pricing is a little bit ouchy because it's just under £110 here in the UK, and that seems quite a lot for a mini ITX case that really does look like it's based on S340 and then with some, and I like them, funky panels, but nonetheless, that does seem a bit steep. But there are plenty of things to admire about this case, and one of them before I go I'm just going to mention, which is that fan hub controller there. 8 fans go to it, PWM connection and extension cable, which is a good thing because many mini ITX boards simply don't have enough fan controllers. So here we've got 3 plus your liquid cooling, that's 4, but it could easily be 5 if you want to whack it 1 or 2 more. Most mini ITX boards can't manage that. That fan hub makes it easy peasy. So overall impressed, not completely blown away. There is definitely scope for improvement with this case, but as things stand, NZXT MANTA is pretty good. I'm Leo Walder for Kit Guru.